Mike, welcome to a Gooners podcast. You skinny son of a bitch. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm Baconator free for 3 weeks.
You're down how many pounds? 15?
No, I'm down almost 2 stone.
Wow.
In 3 weeks, and just imagine how fat I was 3 weeks ago, James. But let's not focus on that. It's a work in progress. But Andy, we made it. We didn't get sacked in the middle of the season.
We didn't.
Andy and Mike are at the wheel, apparently.
Yeah. There was
belated Mother's Day, by the way.
Oh, hey, some of us are fathers and mothers.
That's true.
I got to teach my wife how to cook, and then I won't be the mother.
Oh, jeez. I hope you gave her some of your pedicure memberships. And the last thing I wanted to check before we introduce our guest, did your mom get my card?
Oh, she did not, no.
Well, don't check the mail today because your mailbox will smell like my nasty.
She did roast you pretty
musk.
good, though, because Mike sent a picture of himself as a woman, and my immediate response was to throw up, and I showed it to my mom and my wife, and my mom went, "He actually looks better as a woman."
Gotta love Snapchat filters. Anyway, without further ado, let's introduce our fantastic guest today. You may know him as James McNicholas. You may know him as Gunnerblog. He last joined us over a year ago. Mr. Blog, thanks for coming back on with us.
Oh, thanks. I'm sorry it's been so long. It's great to be back.
Well, we hadn't asked you, so it really is maybe a couple years. So, if you had just shown up in the middle of a pod we were doing with someone else, that would have been fine, but it would have been a little weird.
It would have been rude,
James. Yes, James, of course, is among other things, a football writer, a comedian, a Nobel Peace Prize winning chemist, and one of the world's most respected philatelists. I don't know if you know this. Most philatelists don't get the respect they deserve, but my God. And in his spare time away from these pursuits, he also stars as the more Englishly half of the Arsblog Arscast Extra podcasts. Would it be correct to say Andrew is the Arscast part and you're the extra? Is that how it works? I
like to think that that's my role, that I bring something extra to proceedings, yeah.
And I say that in a good way because I have a 17-year-old daughter, and apparently at least in the States, the word extra can have a negative connotation. I mean, I don't know if
you're
really? Familiar with this.
Yeah. So old that I wouldn't know that.
So am I. We're old AF, but apparently extra means trying too hard, over the top, excessive, maybe a little dramatic.
That does sound a bit like my contribution to the podcast, actually. So yeah, I think I am the extra.
Doing more than the situation calls for, often a little inappropriate. Like if someone's laughing really hard at all your jokes and it's unnatural and too much, your jokes aren't that funny. You might say he's so extra. So I think you're great, but you may want to ask Andrew what's going on there.
I need to stop laughing so much at his jokes. It sounds like.
Yeah, you can be totally extra on our podcast if you want. We actually do that.
Cool.
Andy, what is your favorite individual non-team sport?
Tennis.
No. What do you talk about all the time at like 10 o'clock at night because it's about to start?
Masturbation.
It's all right. Your favorite sport, I have to tell you, is boxing.
Oh yeah. Sorry,
you do love the boxing.
I do.
And which of your past relatives was a world champion boxer? Was it your aunt or
not? Well, my grandma threw a mean right hook, but I don't ever think she became a world champion.
Your wife throws a mean right hook as well, by the way.
She does.
Let's just say co-hosting a podcast is the only thing you do. And James, it's the only thing that you and James have in common because his grandfather could and probably did kick your grandfather's ass. James, tell us a little. I'm obviously getting at something here. Tell us a little bit about your family history and the reason I'm bringing it up because it isn't just to disrespect Andy. It's because you have a comedy tour that is in the works or about to get started. Yeah. And it looks fascinating. Tell us about it.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm just in previews at the moment and there's a bit of touring going on. It will be more so later in the year, but it's a show about my grandfather who, was a world champion boxer. He was middleweight champion of the world in 1961. And it's basically his story, but sort of contrasted with my own story. It's sort of about his his exploits and his bravery, and a bit about my cowardice. And yeah, it's been really fun actually working on it, because it's obviously something I know a bit about, but I've had to research a lot more into it and sort of find out things about his career, things about his life that I didn't necessarily know. And yeah, it's been really fun.
Well, take a look. We'll talk at the end of the podcast about how we can find more information about it.
Yeah, sure.
While I may be unable to attend, I would love to attend by proxy through some of our British listeners, because it sounds like a fantastic show. The website says that it may contain strong language.
Correct.
And I'm not going to ask you to spoil the show and do like a piece from it, but could you just give us a taste of which specific dirty language it's gonna contain? I mean, is there like a fuck or a couple shits? I mean, what's in there?
Oh, there's a couple of fucks. But there's no.
Are they evenly spread out through the show?
Yeah, I try and spread them. Just
was there a part that we should show up?
Yeah,
for?
I don't want to give it all away early on, so I make them wait. And then the last word of the show is a cunt. I finish on a cunt because
I was going to ask you if there's any C-bombs. I mean, you got to finish on a cunt.
Actually, that's the encore. I come back on and just say that, and people go.
That's how Joe. That's how Andy had his son. I mean, he way better. I have to remember. I'm in my office. I'm usually in my basement, so I just scream that out, and there's people looking at me through the door now. So. The FBA awards, just want to quickly announce, Andy, we finished second place again.
Always the bridesmaid, Mike.
Yeah, it has to be second because we didn't win, and obviously we didn't finish 10th. So
no.
If there was a category for second best international content creator, we would have won it. I'm exhausted after the last 2 years of finishing second. I think we're done with the FBAs.
Yeah, fuck that award.
Well, other than the fact that I think Andrew won an award. I think
that's a great award to win.
That was appropriate. But unless they create the category top football podcast in Mozambique or football podcast closest to 50% hosted by a fat Jew,
we're half fat Jew. Come on.
we're gonna win that next year. So anyway, thank you on a serious note to everybody that voted for us, everybody that took their time and effort in 30 seconds to try to help us win. We appreciate it. We gave it a good run. So chat out to the chat out. Actually, I think I'm going to use that from now on. Michael Hernandez is here, even though he said he wouldn't be. We got Jonas from Belgium. Joey Murphy, the legend himself, is in the chat. Happy birthday to Ryan Cost, who's in there and is licking his wounds over a Colorado Avalanche loss. Becca's in the chat, brightening the place up. Lulu is in there, Carlito, and Carrie McCollum. So thanks. Give us a thumbs up if you would. Only 3 of you have so far, and that's fine if only 3 of you are enjoying this. So we have so many user questions and a lot of different random things to talk about. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on these games. We did have a Valencia game. We're through. We won. Abba and Laka were amazing. And we'll talk about the final in a bit. Anyone want to add anything to this game other than the fact that job done, James?
No, I mean, I think you said what I would have said, just how brilliant the front two were, particularly Aubameyang. I thought he was unplayable, his best game in an Arsenal shirt. And I was really scared at the start and then felt all right when we got that first away goal.
Andy, it was a professional job after the first 10 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah, I got really nervous, and then once the away goal went in, I just thought it's over at this point. I didn't expect it to be a thrashing like it was, but I had both TVs at the pub on Arsenal and Chelsea, and so I think I was a little bit more watching the Chelsea match just because that was a little bit more entertaining after our drubbing of Valencia.
You went to the pub for this one, huh? They actually got to experience the Andy Rhodes experience?
Right, I went to a pub, not the pub.
Oh, I see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then let's move on to Burnley. Couple of things. The lineup, obviously, Ozil, Socrates, Torreira, all out of the 18. Xhaka, Kolasinac, Lacazette, and Mainsley all on the bench and eventually unused. Frankly, I think these guys are going to sit out the final as well because they want to be fully rested for the USA tour that starts in mid-July. So the Colorado Rapids winless in 25 games. We're gonna need a full squad for that.
We are, yeah.
But really, actually, a stronger than expected performance from what I thought was a weaker than expected 11. I know this morning, James, you and Andrew talked about the fact that it was pretty much par for the course of what you expected in the lineup. I didn't. There was one scenario, and things happened to us somehow. So if we didn't know Manchester United was going to shit the bed and finish sixth without our help, but had we finished sixth, had Watford, who just got one of their best players back on a red card rescinding for the FA Cup final, had they beaten Manchester City, we would have basically been playing to win the Europa League and not have to play in qualifiers in Cyprus and Kazakhstan in mid-July. So there was something to play for, something pretty big to play for in that game.
Yeah.
But it was a good performance nonetheless out of some players that we might not normally have been used to seeing.
Yeah, that is a really good point, and we probably didn't make enough of that on our show. The schedule is going to be crazy potentially for United, so it was good. I just don't want to risk finishing below United. They've been so terrible this season, particularly in two spells under Mourinho and then latterly under Solskjaer. So, yeah, I thought we did pretty well. Burnley's a tough place to go. I saw Jurgen Klopp's post-match interview in the Liverpool game, and he was being told that Salah tied for the Golden Boot with Salah and Mane tied with Aubameyang, and he said, "Oh wow, he scored 2 goals at Burnley." He said, "I never would have expected that." And I think that shows you, it's a tricky place to go, and they're usually pretty solid defensively. So I thought 3-1 was a good result.
Yeah, we usually need a handball in the 93rd minute in order to beat those guys at Burnley.
Yeah.
Or like a disputed penalty after their penalty in extra time. This was the least wackiest ending game that we've ever had against Burnley, but it was a good result. Andy, to me, there were 2 stories of this game. One, Alex Iwobi, best game I've seen him play in a while. Man of the match, in my opinion, ran all over the pitch. Kept seeing him in almost a left wing back role, even though we weren't necessarily playing with wing backs. Had more tackles than anybody on the pitch. Part of his game, which I think he's really improved this season, is coming back on defense, because he certainly hasn't improved his final product. But when you can pull off an assist, and I swear, James, I was already making this point, and then I heard it on your podcast this morning. I did not copy it, but the Alexis-like standing scoop, perfect ball. We used to see him just kind of stand straight up, take like a 2-inch back swing, and put it on a rope to somebody. And Iwobi clearly has picked up that skill, because that ball to Aubameyang for the first goal was just amazing. Great game overall. Andy, is that the best you've seen from Iwobi, or is this?
Yeah, I thought he
just
played
not been
great.
looking?
And I was going to ask you guys, with this lineup being a bit odd considering the Cup final 16 days or 17 days from now, and so if there is a minor injury, we have enough time to rehab. I get leaving some of the players out, but do you think this was kind of a swan song for some players, and then other players, hey, go out and impress me before the market opens? Because that's the way I saw it when I first saw the lineup. I thought he's given Mavropanos a run to say, hey, where do I better need to strengthen? Can I trust this kid? And then I looked at the El Nini, is this his last match in an Arsenal shirt? And then I even thought with Iwobi, he hasn't started him for a while. So I guess I'll throw it back to you guys. Do you think that he's doing this to kind of give the last run or impression, or is that not how it works? Mike?
I think he's doing it for that last run or impression. No, let's pass it to James, because I was tweeting while you were asking that question. We're so professional.
I think it was a good buy of sorts for some players, a bit of a swan song. You definitely think Lichtsteiner. I think almost certainly El Neni, because he's just not really been prominently involved under Emery. Iwobi, I've noticed that he's been selected less and less, and he didn't play a single minute of either of the Valencia games. I know we're playing a different shape in those games that doesn't necessarily suit him, and Mkhitaryan appears to be the first sub ahead of him. But I think that's why this was an important performance for him. I think it makes him a more attractive option off the bench. I think he created 5 chances in the game. It was a really strong all-round display, particularly in the second half. So I think Emery likes Iwobi, but I just think he's been in a bit of a dip of form of late. But other players I thought impressed. I mean, Guendouzi I thought had one of his better games of recent weeks. And actually, looking at the younger players, I thought Joe Willock did pretty well too.
Yeah.
And maybe he's someone who put his name in the frame as someone who could be a contender to be involved with the squad next season.
Yeah, I thought the same thing with the Willock. We're so light in that creative central midfield area. Mike, are you tweeting or are you with us now?
I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm always with you.
It was a unique lineup, but you know what? They did what they had to do, as you mentioned before. There was something to play for. Making sure. I mean, obviously United shit the bed, but we needed to best them, and so I'm glad that we did. And it was a fun last day of the season for a lot of different teams. But I think we've got 16 days of kind of just training videos that we're going to be watching before Baku.
Yeah, they're going to be doing film work a lot. The second part of the game that has to be discussed is Aubameyang. Oft criticized, transfer listed by some people for whatever reason. Dude has a 3-way share of the Golden Boot now. He's scored 5 goals in the last 2 games, 4 games in a row with goals, and 5 games out of the last 7. I mean, he's pretty much been on fire in the business end of the season. We have 2 outstanding, really different and complementary strikers. There's no one surplus for requirements in that situation, and the rumors are they're on the verge of contract extensions with the numbers $250 a week being thrown out there. Do you think that's well deserved, James? I mean, again, you talked about it a little bit this morning, but the 2 are very different. But do we think that's after our contract extensions and non-contract extensions? Would you do it with both of these people here?
I actually would. I know there's been sort of debate about, we didn't obviously extend Ramsey's contract and we've invested a lot of money in Mesut Ozil. But when I look at the end product and the tangible reward that Aubameyang and Lacazette give us, I think they're worth that. I think they're worth their weight in gold, to be honest, to us at the moment. And when I look ahead to next season, there's a lot of debate about, do we need to prioritize one or the other and go with one up front? I'd be looking to build around those 2 because I think in tandem, they're as good a strike pair as you'll find in Europe. I can't think of another pair of strikers like that. And granted, there aren't that many teams playing with it too, but I think it gives us a point of difference. It guarantees goals. Aubameyang's record of late has been unbelievable. I mean, what he's done since moving to England, the impact that he's had is pretty extraordinary, to be honest. It's been an incredible 18 months. So, yeah, I wouldn't begrudge either of them a pay rise, especially if it means we get to keep them.
Is he possibly on the track to be one of those like fastest to 100 Premier League goal type guys? I mean, maybe not in the share capacity, but I mean, a lot of guys who have a lot of goals, Salah, Mane, they played many Premier League seasons where they weren't scoring that many goals, either for Southampton or for Chelsea. Yeah. So he could, be in that discussion, and he's probably Premier League goal wise only about 3 seasons away from that.
Yeah, because I mean, all his goals last season pretty much were Premier League goals, weren't they? Because he was cup tied in Europe, and he was in double figures then. So he's clear of 30 Premier League goals already. I reckon he must be one of the fastest to 50. Certainly, when he gets there, I'd have to look at the numbers, but
it's between him and Theo, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the 2 or 3 seasons ago, we were desperate for a striker, and a lot of teams are desperate for strikers. And I think Lacazette and Aubameyang almost walk into 95% of the squads across Europe. So the fact that we have both of them is absolutely outstanding. And I echo James. I think we need to figure out a way to play both of them at the same time. Considering you see one of them pop to the wing, Lacazette likes to drop deep and get the ball. I mean, we can figure out a way to work with both of them. And if you look at like the teams that Aguero and Salah have around them and the creation and the chances that they're given each match, the fact that Aubameyang equaled what they did this season both of those players, keep in mind, every week went in to every match knowing they had to win. We went into every match, fuck knows what was going to happen, right? But imagine putting better players behind Aubameyang and Lacazette and giving them more creation and better service. I mean, yeah, we were there, we were creative, but you look at the depth of Liverpool and City and just all the players that they have that could have created opportunities for them. And it's just, you need to build around them. And I think Unai inherited such an ace upfront duo that he would be silly to sell one of them on. We don't need to do that. If we were just absolutely cash-strapped, and Mike, I mean, we're not, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, we're in such a lucky position, and there are teams that would beg for one of those two players.
And you're right. Most of their service has come from each other, frankly.
Absolutely,
which is nuts when you think about it. What's faster than Theo Walcott and faster than Aubameyang is how quickly they got the Golden Boot award to after the game. I mean, literally, I think they were still in injury time. Nketiah's goal had just crossed the line, and there was some dude sprinting onto the pitch to throw the award at Aubameyang. And that being said, how many? We know there's one Stanley Cup trophy. It's right over my shoulder, actually. But how many Golden Boots are there out there? Because they had to have had like 5 or 6 or 7 of those at the various stadiums. Raheem Sterling could have gotten a bunch of goals. Vardy was in the shout. Gylfi Sigurdsson could have scored 9 goals yesterday, and they would have had to come up with a Golden Boot for him. So I find that impressive. I mean, sharing the award is one thing, but like bringing it out to every single person that had a chance to win
they just had drones flying from each stadium, and whenever a goal went in, the drone changed location, and then that's how they did it.
The drone would disconnect the Wenger out sign from the back of it and just drop a gold boot in there.
Yeah.
Last but not least, Ashley Barnes, you could suck it. I don't think Bernd Leno could have endeared me any more than he already has with his shot-stopping abilities in recent weeks. But god damn, after his classic act, and you guys called it the full layman, which I think was great, on Barnes, I'm ready to hand him the Ballon de goalkeeper. I mean, what a guy. Andy, as a goalkeeper yourself, have you ever just like pretty much anally raped somebody and then had them get a yellow card?
This is a true story.
I'm not promoting anal rape.
I actually did, and the kid got a red card. It was a rival high school, but the kid and I played club together, and on a corner kick, he backed into me and gave me like a cheeky elbow, but we were like laughing and talking, and as he did it, I basically Suarez myself into the goal screaming ow, and the ref gave him a red card, and I felt so guilty about it. And,
carries it around with him to this day.
It was so, and he does bring it up to me quite often. So
maybe that guilt is where your hemorrhoids come from.
Yeah, maybe.
It's an exacerbating factor,
Yeah. But maybe he and I need to go to couples therapy. I don't know.
Yeah, that was probably a little bit
but
extra.
No, yeah. I mean,
that was extra. That was couple therapy extra.
Yeah, but no, it was great to see him do that. I mean, I've never liked Barnes, but, at the end of the day, it's the last day of the season, so who gives a shit? But, Mike, let me ask you this. So City and Liverpool obviously go into this title chase, right? There's got to be a little part of Liverpool supporters who are upset that City are in the position they're in, and there's got to be a whole heap of City supporters who are upset of the situation Liverpool are in, because whilst both clubs are very happy with their stages of the career, like you would think that City want to be where Liverpool are. Do you think they would have given up that Premier League title to know they were going to play Tottenham in the final?
Ooh. Probably because that's the one thing they haven't won. They've got Premier Leagues. They haven't gotten the Champions League. They've spent a lot of money trying to win that Champions League. Premier League's almost like mundane for them at this point. So yeah, I think they would probably have switched places. James, what do you think? If you're a citizen, would you?
I think they probably would. And to be honest, I think the Liverpool fans would too. They've won the Champions League 5 times, as they're so keen to remind us.
Yeah, it goes in reverse.
But they haven't won the Premier League for 30 years, something like it. 29, I think. So, I think they would have swapped too. Maybe they should just meet up at the end of the season and do some sort of exchange.
Yeah, we should be able to make those do an exchange. It's like a hostage exchange, but with trophies. So yeah, congratulations to Man City on your fake overinflated commercial deals. On playing the FFP rules perfectly before they went into effect. Really just want to send a shout out to Riyad Mahrez, who succeeded. I mean, he was successful in his attempt to win a Premier League title, get paid £11 million for participating in a bunch of training sessions and Carabao Cup games. So good for him. Mikel Arteta, I am happy for him, but he was a good babysitter. He sat on the bench with a bunch of world-class players, kept them company every week. But Liverpool not winning the title.
If we had hired Arteta, we would have won the league. I mean, that's what I'm hearing on Twitter. So
clearly, I mean, he is the reason. Liverpool, you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk around with the Premier League trophy is what I'm going with, and that's a new hashtag for them. So that is pretty much a wrap up on those games. The season's over. I'm not ready to stop talking about it, but I'm trying to get Andy, trying to get him to free up from his social schedule to do one more pod to review the entire season and the players, where we judge the players because we are so perfect ourselves that we're in a position to do that. But we are now off to Baku. And by that, I mean 500 of us or so are going to be off to Baku. What a joke this final is. Ryan Fletcher asked a question in the pod, in the chat, just what we think of the whole thing. 6,000 ticket allocation per team in a 70,000 seat stadium. No direct flights. That's not their fault. No flights under 25,000 quid round trip. That kind of sucks. And 0 hotel rooms left that don't have a donkey in them.
Well,
there's a filter on Travelocity that allows you donkey, no donkey.
So someone brought up this point, and I'll ask you two gentlemen because I'm kind of on the fence with it. So, someone said, don't moan about the ticket allocation because at the end of the day, all the companies that pay for the UEFA to put on the competition, which in turn pay your players' wages and your TV rights, they're the ones getting the tickets because they've fronted all the money, and that makes sense. But what do you guys think about that? I mean, at the end of the day, they do the same in the Champions League, right? It's minimum ticket allocation because everything else goes to the sponsors, and then sponsors will pay whatever for hotel rooms, so that gets jacked. So the fans get screwed here. But is it fair to say, like, hey, the sponsors should be getting more tickets? I get at the end of the day, we're getting a small allotment, but they are the ones technically paying the entire
I don't know that we're even going to fill the allotment, though, because of the cost of going there. So the question really is about the whole, awarding of it to – and before we even talk about the other issue, but awarding it to Baku in the first place. But James, I mean, is this allocation a travesty?
Well, I mean, far be it, it's not like me to defend UEFA, but I saw a story going around today that actually the part of the issue is that Valencia had indicated that if they made the final, they would only be able to take up an allocation of 2,000 tickets, and they wouldn't want to take any more. So when UEFA sort of set these numbers, they have to factor in all the different clubs that could potentially reach that stage in their equation. I mean, yeah, I think the allocation is not great. I take the point about the money comes from sponsors, but ultimately that sponsorship money shouldn't be buying seats. It's buying brand awareness, right? It feels like a part of the brand awareness, a part of what they're buying into is a showpiece occasion, a showpiece final with a great atmosphere. And unfortunately, what is going to suffer, because there aren't going to be enough fans out there, is the atmosphere. And it's going to be quite weird, I think, watching a big final, which, the vast majority of the crowd are going to be neutrals and probably not that, particular about the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as the Mkhitaryan thing, I mean, we talked about this in our last pod. But I mean, it's just, I don't understand how this, and I've been talking about it since the first time they went to Baku. I don't understand how this isn't a bigger deal. UEFA has said he can play, and the Azerbaijani sports, football FA has said that he is allowed to play. Bravo to you for that.
Well, it's because UEFA came in and said, if you don't let him play, you'll be removed from all cup competition. That's my guess.
But letting somebody play, first of all, it shouldn't be an issue. He's a registered member of the team that's in the final. B, it's the sporting federation of Azerbaijan that's saying that. It's not the government of Azerbaijan. And although the government controls the visas and will give him one, they're apparently not guaranteeing his safety. And I don't know how you guarantee anybody's safety in this day and age, but it's just doesn't seem like he's welcome. And there are some publications I've seen whose headlines are deceptive, which is basically saying that he's set to miss it. I don't think he's going to miss it, but this is just more distraction than it's worth. What would happen if Chelsea and Arsenal were able to come to some sort of agreement and just boycott this game? I know that's unrealistic. I know it's naive, but would they move it? Would Frankfurt win the Europa League by default? I mean, James, I mean, am I a little too idealistic here? I'm not saying I think it's going to happen, but how can this be allowed to happen?
I'm trying to think if there's any kind of precedent for that. Nothing springs to mind. I suspect knowing UEFA, they probably just would have the final between the other semi-finalists, Valencia versus Frankfurt, and see who they want to give it to out of that.
Chelsea shows up like, no, we didn't really mean it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. Ultimately, we got to be there because we need that Champions League place badly. So we are slightly, on the back foot there. The Mkhitaryan thing, it's really unpleasant. It leaves a bad taste in the mouth. I think he will go, and I'm sure Emery will want him there, and I'm sure he'll want to be there. It just feels like something we shouldn't have to be talking about, and it's something that should have been factored into the considerations when they chose the venue, because they knew full well Mkhitaryan as an Armenian was taking part in this competition, and they still selected Baku as a venue choice, and I think that is really disappointing.
Well, I see that this written as fate is that he will score a goal and he will do some sort of Xhaka Switzerland type of celebration to likely receive a full year ban next year to let everyone know that he is Armenian.
What was that he did? Oh, like some sort of butterfly?
The peacock or bird or something. But yeah, essentially at the end of the day, I think it's written in the stars. And interestingly, I know this isn't part of what we're talking about, but I just saw this morning that Real Madrid are set to announce the Hazard signing immediately after the final. So that between now and then, that's going to drum up way more press, and there's going to be leaks coming out around that. So if it's true, and it's coming from L'Equipe in France, but if it's true, that's just drama on their side that they have to deal with. But I suppose he's been saying it for years now that that's where he wants to go, and it makes sense that's where he would go. But that's negative press on for them and their team.
Yeah, distractions abound because when a game starts so long after the end of the Premier League season. So another person that could score a fairy tale goal in the Europa League final apparently is Danny Welbeck. Have you heard the rumors about him being back in full training and possibly available for selection in the Cup final? And if he is, would you play him? If you're him, would you want to play? Given that he's not going to be with the team after.
Well, I think we get an extended bench. I'm almost certain. From 12 to 12, right? So I think having someone like Welbeck on the bench is great because we talked about it a little bit on the last pod. He is a player with speed. He's got ability with his feet to spread play. He can score the often goal, and he does sometimes come up when it's needed. I mean, he scored in important games. I'm thinking Leicester, the Man United FA Cup a few seasons ago. So I think if he's fully fit, even if he's 80% fit, I would put him on the bench because he offers us something that we could throw on if Chelsea are being that sorry type of just defensive mentality, then maybe he opens up the play a little bit. So yeah, I would definitely have him on the bench if it's there.
James?
Yeah, likewise. I mean, who knows how rusty he's going to be, but I think with that 12-man bench, you might as well put him there. And, the good news is that Eddie Nketiah got his goal at the weekend and his confidence will be improved, and maybe that increases the likelihood of using him off the bench. But we know Aubameyang will start. We know Lacazette will start. And the chances are we might have to make an attacking change later on. So to have Welbeck there would be great. I mean, he started the FA Cup final win over Chelsea a couple of years ago and was outstanding on that day. So even if it's just for 15, 20 minutes, I'd like to have him available.
Yeah, I mean, Nketiah's got the old anti-Chelsea situation. You gave up on me type of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think the starting lineup, and we'll talk about this in our preview, which I will get to in a few minutes because it's going to be huge. Our preview, I mean, the lineup we had in the second leg against Valencia pretty much should be, I think, the lineup that we go through. And I don't care about 10 of the people in that lineup. The fact that Mustafi wasn't in it, I think, is the reason why we're going to win the Europa League. But by the way, a comment from, who was it? Archie said Mkhitaryan is not Arsenal. He won't die for Arsenal. I mean, it's ridiculous that we actually have to talk about him physically dying for the club. I mean, that's usually just like a comment, but no, he says he's a bottler. I don't know that he's a bottler. He's just not as good as he used to be. Robin van Persie retired this weekend. Let's all hang our heads for a minute. Played his final game for Feyenoord at the age of 35. He ended his career the exact way he started it. As a cunt. As a cunt. We didn't even plan that, yes.
Nope.
Yeah, that's all the time I feel like spending on him. As much as I don't want to talk about the Champions League, the semifinals, I mean, have you ever seen 3 hours of combined more suspenseful football? They weren't too kind to Arsenal supporters. Obviously, we know we should have been watching those games live on Pornhub because Arsenal got fucked by Barcelona and Ajax.
Yeah, it was a really entertaining for the neutral, and I was happy to see Liverpool. I typically like to see English clubs with a caveat, except for those scum. But I was happy to see Liverpool overcome Barcelona, and I think that they're going to be the better team to take on Tottenham. But I mean, Jesus, what an entertaining match! And for all the praise that De Ligt gets, the two mistakes on that last goal were just, I mean, that's just age right there, right? But you know what, Mike?
Maybe it brings his cost down by 30 million, and we can get it.
I doubt it, but you know what? If it's written in the stars that we're gonna have probably a Super Cup, us versus them. But I know you're gonna get to this point in a minute, but it took a little bit of the celebration out of it for us making the final with them making it. I was a little bit bummed. Hi.
We're about to see Ali. Well, while Ali is getting ready to be on the
He was just
James,
playing out in the water, so he's excited. I'll mute myself.
James, did it take? Was it a stomach punch that lasted for an extra day or two and into and through Thursday for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of having to pretend the Champions League final isn't really happening. I'm actually at a wedding on that night, so it's great because
thank God. I gotta find one to go to.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna just walk around various hotels looking for a wedding to go to.
Crash weddings. Yeah, I'm gonna be just drinking and forgetting about it. Is my plan, and I do think Liverpool will come through for us. I pray. But they've got to be the favourites. Yeah, it was one of those moments when they got their goal that knocked Ajax out. I just stared at the TV for like 5-10 minutes. I couldn't really believe what I had seen.
Well, and a minute before that, Ajax had hit the post, and I was thinking, oh my God, if I look back on this, and this is what ended up keeping them out. But I'm like, no, it's impossible. This game is over. And then I'm just sitting here watching it in my office on my computer and I wanted to throw up. I literally wanted to throw up when that happened, seeing how happy they were that they got away with it. I mean, fair play to them, but fuck them. And along those lines, we do have a question from James at Tisme James on Twitter from Dulwich, as we call it over here. So I've raised my son, and this is something I've seen all over the place on Twitter and on Facebook. I raised my son as a Gooner from birth. He's now 12. He said, "Dad, I would rather us lose the Europa League final if it somehow meant that Spurs lose the Champions League final too. I felt so proud I shed tears." So here's the poll that everybody's been putting on Twitter. There's been a lot of discussion about this on the U.S. supporters group, Arsenal America, on their website. A lot of people using the P word, poser, not the other P word. People not from England, not from London, not from North London, weighing in with opinions on this. But it's a Sophie's choice. Hypothetically, there's only two possible outcomes, not four. Arsenal and Tottenham both win. Arsenal and Tottenham both lose. Again, there's a lot of debates. Why do you even care what Tottenham does? I'm Arsenal first, Tottenham second. And a lot of other people say you just don't understand. So, James, as an Arsenal supporter, which would you prefer? I'm sure you've pondered this dilemma.
It's a really tricky one. It's a really, really tricky one. I think I'm going to surprise myself, and I'd say us both winning the trophies, because we've got to get back in the Champions League if we're ever to stand a chance of winning it. And I think you've got to play the long game and think if they win one, we'll win two. It might take a long time, but it will happen. I worry about letting this club, our club, slide any longer,
Yeah, I mean, if we had finished fourth, which could have happened in any of a number of ways, I think the answer would be different. But
what do you think?
I've gone on record saying I'm about 50.1% towards the same thing, us both winning, and 49.9% of us both losing. I am American. I didn't grow up in North London, but I spent a couple of years there.
Yeah.
I certainly understand to an extent the rivalry and the understanding here. But like you said, I mean, we are on a precipice of reducing our payables to match our receivables financially here after 3 straight years of missing the Europa League, and there's a concern that things will continue to go down rather than back the other way. There was another question yesterday, and I'll ask both of them to you, Andy. I was on another podcast, the Gooner Talk, with Tom, and the part B of the question was Tottenham lose the cup, but Arsenal immediately get relegated to League One. And there were people in the chat saying, League One it is. At least we still have a football club. So for those people, the fate of Arsenal really was irrelevant when it came to the hatred of having Spurs win the Champions League. And my rationale is the difference between the Champions League and the Premier League. I might feel differently if it was the Premier League title, because to me, the Premier League is you cannot luck into winning, even if you're Leicester City, you cannot luck into winning the Premier League. No. It's a 10-month long, 9-month long, effort. You play every single team twice, home and away. There is no one-off about it. It's not and I'm not saying it's easy to win the Champions League, but there is some luck involved, luck in opponent, in the draw, in other results. I mean, Porto, Red Star, Steaua Bucharest, they've all won it. Feyenoord even won it when RVP's little boy inside of him wasn't born yet. So, while they will get something massive that we have never been able to do, they can still say they've never actually won the league. We can still say they're technically, 1 point better than us in the table, and with their new stadium and austerity period coming up, likely to be falling down rather than going up. But I could sacrifice it, and only barely that. But Andy, you're from Hemel Hempstead. How do you feel about it? I bring that up on every podcast.
He does. I was obviously born into a family outside of my father of Gooners, so it was Arsenal win first, Tottenham lose. That was kind of the order. So at the end of the day, I don't care what they do. I want us to win the European trophy. I want us to be able to say that we have Champions League football. I think we have a great manager where we're going to be challenging for top 4, if not the title, for years to come. I'm confident in that, but to see them winning, I mean, at the end of the day, after a season or two, no one gives a shit. All they're going to have when it comes to the banter is that they've won a Champions League before us. I'm still of that old school mentality where I don't see the Champions League being bigger than the Premier League. Honestly, and I've told you this before, Mike, and I'll stand by it. I would, at the end of the day, I enjoy seeing an FA Cup more. It's just one of those things that the prestige. I understand the argument. When we live in a fan base now where it's such a global sport, and Arsenal is such a global brand. I mean, you saw me go on Arsenal America when they said this rivalry is stupid. Well, no, I grew up 15 minutes away from it. It's not. I mean, it's not that at all. But there's probably a very good chance that neither of the two teams from North London win, and then this is all a moot point, right?
Well, and if that happens, then apparently a lot of people will be super happy.
The question is if we both win, is there a parade through North London where maybe we share a double-decker bus?
I was going to say
the bottom.
The police will probably want just a shared parade so that they only have to deal with it once, and I'm sure that'll go over fantastically. I did a poll about Premier League ready rising talent versus big name imports. We're going to hold that for the Premier League recap because I really want to get to as many of your user questions as I can. So let's jump right into that. Actually, I have like 45 seconds of other stuff. The technical director thing. We started with Mislintat possibly up for the job and then decided he wasn't good. Then we moved on to Monchi. We all hate Monchi now. Latest links have us linked to Edu to start in July. The names keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Now, James, was fucking Demba Ba not available? How short do we need to go here? What do you think about Edu, James?
I feel like the only thing that makes me hesitate a little bit on it is that he has that association with Arsenal, and I just hope that that's not a big criteria, because to me it sort of shouldn't really matter. You know, when I look at Man United and they're talking about hiring Rio Ferdinand for that role, I think that's crazy. You know, just get the best qualified person. And if Edu has impressed sufficiently in his interviews and all that, then great. But the fact that he's an Arsenal guy, that doesn't really make any difference to me.
Allows you to possibly ruin your legacy.
Yeah, I mean, my only slight concern is I kind of hope Emery hasn't been that involved. I sort of feel like it was always a bit problematic that Arsene Wenger was one of the people who interviewed Ivan Gazidis. I always felt that created a bit of a strange hierarchy within the club. And I think in an ideal world, your technical director should be the man appointing your coach, not the other way around. So I'm a little bit uneasy about how it's all come about. But look, let's hope Eddie does a good job.
Yeah, and
Mike, just to throw in a thought. So Drew Thompson, a good friend of ours, is doing an article for a piece, and he asked me if I would give him a quick synopsis of how Josh is running the Avalanche and the Nuggets. And I'm not a huge Nuggets fan, but there is one correlation for both. He's hired people in roles that know the sport. And so Joe Sakic, obviously being the vice president of hockey operations, obviously he would be like the Thierry Henry for the Avalanche, right? So at the end of the day, I think that putting people into jobs that know the sport is a smart thing. I'm nervous that, again, it's this association with Arsenal. Does he have the background to do this role? Does he have the experience? I don't want to just bring in someone who's never done it before just because of the sake. And why would we do that when it could have been Mark Overmars or someone with a bigger name that's been in a like position? What I will say is that I think that's the one thing Josh has done well with other teams, and those teams are starting to win because you're starting to put people into positions who understand what it takes to do that role. If you look at Manchester United with Ed Woodward, he's more of a revenue money guy. He doesn't understand football. So he goes out and buys the players that are going to sell shirts. He puts names on the back that are going to sell shirts. I guarantee you Pogba would never have been sanctioned if there was a person in the role that understood football and had the opportunity to sit with the manager and go, does this make our team better? Because there's that variable of, are we just trying to sign shirts? Because we owned this guy 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and now we're going to pay how much for him? That just doesn't make sense. There are other players you could buy that could do what he does on the pitch and doesn't bring the ego and attitude. So I'm under hey, if he can do the job and he knows the football side of the business, let's let him run with it. And at the end of the day, we only have 2 more years left of Unai unless he gets extended, so you can just cut your losses as you go. But I don't know. It's going to be an interesting kind of couple months, see what happens.
Oh, it's going to be fascinating. What I also found fascinating, I was cruising through some Premier League stats last night, and there were 12 players that played every single minute of all 38 Premier League games of the season, and only 9 of them were goalkeepers. Wow. I could not believe there was anybody that played all whatever it is. Do
you remember some of the names?
Yeah. 2 of them were defenders. Wolves' Connor Cody, a pretty impressive defender, team captain, I believe. And ex-Arsenal manager Bertie Mee's grandson, Ben Mee, from Burnley, who was partially responsible for our first goal yesterday. And no, they're not related. And then a midfielder, which I found amazing. I could believe that defenders did it, but that it was rare. Luka Milojevic, the guy that always tells us from Palace.
Palace guy.
As a midfielder, played every minute of every single game in the Premier League, even without Champions League or Europa League football, even without deep runs in any cups. That is impressive AF.
Yeah.
And next on the list, missing only 8 minutes of the whole season, Nathan Aki. He's a guy I got my eyes on. Grab him unless he's like 23 going on 40 from playing every minute of the Premier League this season. But anyway, user questions. Andy, hopefully you see our ticket.
I do. From Connor AFC at Donnelly Bags from Ireland. Would you rather have to live with John Terry for the rest of your life or see Spurs win the Champions League? Now, I'm assuming John Terry is residing in your home. So I'll take this one first.
Oh, yeah. You don't get to live in his house with his wife and all that. He gets to live in your house with your wife, which we know is a problem.
Yeah. No, I think I would live with John Terry because I've seen him a couple times on the quiz show. I'm forgetting the name with James Corden, where he was a guest. And he was he seemed to be a pretty funny, likable guy. So yeah, I'll let him live in the spare room.
Funny, maybe likable.
No,
James.
He came off pretty likable. He had a good sense of humor about himself, and I always appreciate people more when they can make fun of themselves. Yeah.
and he would want to. Andy's punching pretty much above his weight. Yeah. James, what do you
aren't
think?
we all? I mean, I'd have to take living with John Terry, but I mean, I don't know what I would do. I just would have to keep a very close eye on him and my wife and make sure that was all okay. But it's not an ideal situation, is it? But yeah, anything to stop Spurs winning the Champions League, really. If I can.
You don't want to ever hear the words "got enough, John Terry."
Oh, I really don't.
All right. From Danny the GFP from a Bergkamp Wonderland. Now, I've never seen Danny suck up like this. I've seen him pictured in various stages of undress, but I have never seen him suck up like this. It says, James, 2 quick questions. Do you ever get the urge to touch Andrew for good luck, as he is the podfather, and for the likes of me, he is a deity? Now, honestly, he said the same thing about Andy last week, so don't
True.
Don't pass that along to Andrew. But do you ever get the urge to touch him for good luck?
I don't get the opportunity very often because he's in Dublin and I'm in London, and
you don't have like a teleport situation.
No, I mean we do obviously meet up when he comes over for games or if we do live shows. To touch him for luck, I don't think he would like that. I'm not sure how tactile he would be comfortable being with me.
Yeah,
maybe I'll try.
I missed him at the Tollington by about 15 minutes before the last game when he was over in March in October, November, and I would have tested that theory probably, but it wouldn't have gone well. I don't think so. He was lucky that I left. The second one is, what are the 3 most important things for any budding potential podcasters? Now, this is a poorly constructed question because I would answer a microphone, a computer, and a mouth. But I don't think that's what he was getting at. Yeah. I think he probably should have said 3 most important qualities or something like that. But any quick off the cuff response to this question?
Well, I mean, it's ironic that I should say this today, but sound quality is everything. Apparently my mic's playing up. What can you do?
It's all better now.
It's fine now.
Danny's the one who gave us the advice on what to do. So.
Fair enough. Well, thank you very much, Danny. I mean, genuinely, I think that probably is quite an important thing. I think it drives people crazy listening to stuff that sounds tinny or unpleasant. And Andrew is so hot on that and intense.
Well, voiceover guy, you would imagine, is pretty.
Exactly. He's very, very hot on that stuff. I think in terms of podcasting, it's so hard now because there's so many podcasts. I mean, like when we started doing Arscast Extra, it was not such a saturated environment as it is. So
How do you think it became so saturated?
Yeah. Well, maybe
we could do what those guys are doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and to be honest, a lot of people can and do it really well. I think, given that, a point of difference, a different perspective on things is important. But ultimately, I think with podcasting, personality determines a lot of it. Because I know for myself, I love listening to podcasts and it's about the kind of relationship I imagine myself to have with those people. They are, this sounds really sad, like I'm really lonely, but they are kind of my friends. And so I think if you've got a likable personality, I think that sort of goes a long way. It's quite abstract advice, but I guess it's something.
Well, Danny can tell us, because he's in the chat, whether that was a good answer or not. I think it was fantastic. Even if it's not three things, it's good advice. And the market was pretty saturated when we joined it already. But now it's saturated even beyond belief. So not that anyone was asking me, but I do think you have to be different. If you're just going to go on the air and give your opinions and your tactical analysis, you're going to, unless you are super special, you're going to kind of fall in among the crowd. So that's why we go for the most cursing award and the most body language and humor. That's really our niche. So anyway, you got Tokyo, Andy?
Oh, yep. Sorry. From Tokyo Gooner, James. If you can't figure out where he's from, then
Can't help you.
Would you like Ozil to stay at Arsenal? If not, what is the best way for Arsenal to make him move? And follow-up question: would you like to who would you like to sign with Arsenal from clubs outside top 6 in Premier League? I'll take this quick.
The other follow-up was Godzilla.
Oh, Mike. Right. So, do we want Ozil to stay? I think apart from we pay him way too much for what we get on the pitch. So from that perspective, no. I would love a way for us to get a new contract for him, but that's not going to work. I think he has done well the last 2 months of the season. I think he's fit in where he needs to, but we don't get the best out of Ozil. What's the best way for Arsenal to make him move? Well, it would be for the Colorado Rapids to just do an internal transfer, and then the Cronkies can continue paying his wages on that wage bill.
Swap him for Tim Howard.
Yeah, which frees up. No, we'll take Cole Bassett, and then they could have Ozil, right? But what do you guys think about Ozil, James? I know Mike's opinion, so James, I'll go to you. What are your thoughts here?
I think that at the moment it's kind of a situation where no one's really getting the most they can out of it. I don't think the way we play under Emery particularly suits him. I'm not sure he's providing value on our investment. And so I would probably say if some sort of deal or compromise can be arrived at to move him on and reinvest that money or allocate it differently, I would do that. How do you make him move? I don't think you can really. It's pretty tricky, and for that reason, I don't anticipate necessarily him going. I just think he seems pretty determined to stick it out, and that's his entitlement. We all agreed to that contract at the club, and he signed it, and so he's due that money. But if you ask me if I could reallocate that resource, I probably would do. Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys talked about pretty much giving him away at the end of the season.
Yeah. And then the follow-up was, who would you like to sign with for Arsenal from clubs outside the top 6? I think we kind of discussed it a little bit last week. I'd like to see like a Harry Maguire or a big English center back come in. James, anyone from those remaining 14 clubs that kind of caught your eye this season where you could say, hey, they would jump right in and be good in an Arsenal kit?
Yeah, there was a few people. We had a question about this on the Askcast today, so I was thinking about it. I mean, I've always been an admirer of Wilfried Zaha. I think he's a great talent. I don't think he's within our price range, to be honest. I think he would cost too much money. In terms of sort of more realistic figures, there are a few centre halves I quite like. I really like Harry Maguire. I think he's great, but again, I think he'd probably be too expensive. I like Jamal Lascelles, who plays for Newcastle. I think he's a really good defender. I like Doucouré as a midfielder at Watford. Just trying to think if there were others. I mean, about half the Wolves team. I love a lot of those Wolves players, honestly.
I would just buy a wolf.
Yeah.
An actual wolf.
Yeah, that would be good too. But I love Jota at Wolves. I like Ruben Neves. They've got some. I even think Jimenez is a really good player. They've got some really good players.
I'm in love with Nathan Aki right now, so I'm just on an Aki kick. So I would.
I like him too.
I don't know how accurate this is, but I saw a tweet that said Wolves have beat all the teams in the European Cup.
All four finals, of us. I think they have.
And then Huddersfield are the only team that didn't drop points to Wolves, making Huddersfield the best team in Europe. And I just don't see how you can argue with that logic. It's perfect. So anyone from Huddersfield, come on over.
Yeah, I'm going to have to remember that in case Spurs win the Champions League. Huddersfield are the real champions.
Jason Punchin could come over anytime. He's one of my favorites. From Nate, and for something he did, not for how he plays on the pitch. Let's just put it this way: Jason Punchin and Nacho Monreal have something in common. From Nate Smith, would you rather eat a red hot fire poker rectally, or watch Spurs lift the Big Ears trophy? Andy, you like to eat things rectally, so what? I don't know what he means by that, but
it's the only way I can get drunk.
James, would you rather eat a red hot fire poker rectally or the Spurs outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a go.
You don't seem like the type of person to say no to them. I mean, you came on the podcast, so you must be up for anything.
Live fast, die young. Let's do it. Yeah.
Andy, would you eat a red hot fire poker rectally?
Oh, I mean, I suppose for that, yeah. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, I mean.
You might die. That's the worst.
You probably won't. You probably won't even feel it though.
But James, I'd be a hero.
That's true.
Hero to the proctology community. A hero to the proctology community.
Yeah, the statue of that moment of it being inserted. Wow.
Yeah.
On the
it would actually not even need. It wouldn't need to be bolted to the ground because it would be like a tripod. It would just have the two legs and then the poker resting on the ground, and it would just stand there without any kind of solidification. So from the lovely Becca in Iowa, are we pissed about finishing fifth? And she means this in the American sense of pissed off. Although we are probably very drunk about it, or do we take it as a positive sign of things to come? James,
I don't think it's super positive, only because we finished above United, who, as I mentioned before, had a disaster of a season. I mean, they've had two catastrophic managers in a single season, and it's kind of ludicrous, isn't it, that Sarri, who was maligned by the Chelsea fans, this kind of like infuriating figure. They hate his style of football. They hate everything about him. He finished up in third, and he could win a European trophy. And I think that probably tells you as much about the problems in the top six, excluding the top two, as anything else. So yeah, I'm pretty pissed about it. I would be a lot more pissed if we didn't have the Europa League final, and I'm very grateful that I kind of have that to sort of rest all my hopes on. But I think if we lose the final, I'll be even more pissed about being fifth.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we win I was just going to say conversely, if we win the final, people are just going to just stop talking about finishing fifth altogether, I think.
True.
And I should say, Becca isn't just lovely. She is lucky because she gets to look at herself in the mirror.
Beautiful, beautiful Becca. I'm pissed only because of the way the season ended. With all the other teams that were losing, we could have easily cemented at least fourth, with 2 or 3 games remaining. So that's why I'm pissed. But if you look at last season compared to this, I mean, it's almost a mirror image. Although we only finished this season 121, last season 19, drew 7, last season 6. We lost 10, last season 13. Our goal difference was 1 goal. We scored 73 this year. Last year it was 74. We conceded 51 both seasons. Point-wise, we improved by 7, but Mike, we were still 30 points off or 28 points off of the leader, where last season it was 30. So was there an improvement? I don't think so.
The difference is we won 3 more games away from home. That's exactly the difference between last season and this season.
But I also look at it where I think Sarri inherited a very good squad because they were in the shout of actually kind of competing for a minute with the team that they basically have now. So I want to see what Unai can do without this team or with a different set of players, because I think we're going to ship a lot this summer. So yeah, I'm pissed, but I'm excited. There's an excitement, and I'm in James's camp. If we weren't in this final, I think I'd be even more upset. But you know what? At the end of the day, what are you going to do? It's a transition year, as everyone says, and you know we could have done way better, and that's what bothers me is why didn't Unai get this team ready to play in those matches? You know, we didn't have a lot of injuries, so that's where I feel like his camp failed.
It's a bizarre situation what happened in the run-in,
but I think there's a learning curve to the Premier League. We saw Pep go through it. We saw Klopp go through it. You know, you roll into the Spanish league where you're playing Real Betis, you're walking away with 3 points. You go to Le Havre in France, you're walking away with 3 points. It's not the case when you're going to Huddersfield, Wolves, Leicester. It's not that way. You know, so I think there's a big learning curve.
Yeah, I agree. Next one.
From Yidu Wang. If you have a time machine which allows you to travel back in time to June 2018, the first day of training camp, what advice would you give Unai Emery to help him do his job? I'll hit this first. Fire Steve Bold and bring in someone who actually wants to teach these guys how to defend. And again, what I just said, this is not the French or Spanish league. Every team will cause you trouble.
Yeah, don't put a lineup out there like you did against Crystal Palace.
You know, yeah.
James, what would you tell him?
I think I would maybe say, maybe I would tell him to get Aaron Ramsey involved in the team a little bit earlier than he did, and see if he could try and sort that contract out, despite my concerns over his fitness problems. I think we'd be in a stronger position with him than without. What else to say? I think the other points made are strong points. I think, you know, he did maybe take some of these Premier League teams a little bit lightly. And to that end, I might say you probably don't need to go quite as strong as you are thinking in the Europa League group stages. You know, he used a lot of players then that maybe he had to rest them later in the season. I think we could have rotated more early on and spared those legs a bit.
Yeah, good advice, especially given the length of the travel involved in some of those games. I would say don't bother banning fruit juice, dude. Either way, you're going to end up allowing 51 goals. So fruit juice, no fruit juice, it's not going to matter. That would be my answer.
Good answer. And
I'm just waiting for Andy.
Buy another centre back, maybe. I mean, I know it's not his job necessarily, but just tell someone to get some more centre backs from somewhere.
Next question is from
someone have to explain that to him.
Explain Arsenal. Who is the cutest player on the Arsenal squad? I think we discussed this 2 weeks ago, Mike, saying that Jacques is so pretty that he can't get hit in the face with a ball. That's why he ducks. I've gotten to meet Jacques and be very close to him, and he is a beautiful man. So that's going to be my answer.
I actually got a chance to be on stage with him before he knew a word of English. He was with the club like 3 days. He was in San Jose. You could smell him from across the stage, and it wasn't a bad thing.
Wow.
You know, his musk was definitely there. I would say anyone other than Mesut Ozil, because I mean, apart from the whole controversy with him, that is one odd-looking dude. And this is coming from the Brad Pittowitz of podcasting, but. So I can't name one. I'm just naming everyone but one. James, who are you attracted to?
I've got a friend who, this is a bit cruel, but describes Ozil as looking like prom queen at the Goblin Ball.
I like your friend.
Yeah, he's a very funny man. But I think actually, do you know what? And it's a shame because we never really saw him, but I think Denis Suarez is quite a pretty guy.
He is.
The lesser spotted Denis Suarez, alas.
And there may be a mention of him in a minute with another one of our user questions. But Becca, of course, as we know, still pines for Olivier Giroud. None of the rest of the players on the team do it for her, so she's been left, fantasizing about podcasters now. From Dro the Gooner. How much will we have to spend this summer? I'm going to cut this off right here. Dro, thank you for the question, but we've agonized over this issue so much. It's not 40 million. It's not 100 million. It's whatever we need, and we're not going to spend as much as we could. But to put a number on it, I think is foolish. From Mike Hernandez, who was here earlier, had to go. How would you prioritize the signings? Now, I'm just reading his tweet. How would you prioritize the signings of a Wonger, center mid, and center back. I think he meant winger, but I'm going to change the question around because, again, I don't want to get too much into transfers. James, would you rather sign a winger, a wonger, or a wenger?
I want a Wonga, and I'm not even really sure what it is.
Isn't that the shirt sponsor from Newcastle a couple years ago?
Yeah, they're like an online betting.
Wonga.com. I think it's like, is it money lending or something? I'm not sure. It's
it's that predatory payday loan shit that was all controversial.
Yeah.
You borrow $10 and you end up owing back $490 or pounds or whatever.
Maybe we should do that to fund the transfer business. I can't see what could possibly go wrong.
So I just got a text from a buddy, and this is damning. Only one team that has been at the top of the Premier League on Christmas Day and failed to win it in the history of the Premier League has been Liverpool 08-09, Liverpool 13-14, and Liverpool this season. I mean, they're just cursed. They're just absolutely cursed. So from Soxy Anderson, Mike, you just give me these names because you know I'm going to butcher him, who appears to be from Denmark.
He is. He's a Danish.
What positions do you think it's most pressing for us to buy this summer? Most would say center back, but with Holding coming back and Chambers doing well at Fulham and returning from his loan spell, do we really need more? The answer to that is yes, because I think Chambers played mostly in that defensive midfield role, which I've heard that he did very well in. And so I think that if we're going to bring him back, we can integrate him back into that midfield as a Holding type of player. Especially if we ship El Nini, it kind of gives him the opportunity to find himself in the 25-man squad as that. And then if we need to, we can throw him at center back, and I think he's played right back on occasion.
We actually signed him as a right back.
But he lacks speed. So I think that we need to bring in a dominant center back. I just don't know how much Koscielny has left in the tank. I think he was superb, but I think he truly finished the season playing injured. And, God forbid we see Mustafi in an Arsenal shirt going forward. But, yeah, I think we're desperate. James, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right about Chambers. I think he's an ideal replacement for El Neni in some respects. One out, one in, and he's a homegrown player too. But I wouldn't be too confident sort of earmarking him as our big centre-back addition. I think we do need something there. Pretty urgently, and Rob Holding, I'm excited to see Rob Holding back. I thought he was good when he was fit, but he's still a younger player, and everyone else we have, assuming we sell Mustafi, Koscielny's 33, Monreal's about 33, Socrates I think is 31 soon. We need someone who can be Holding's sort of partner in the mid to long term, a guy who's in their prime, mid-20s, that sort of Mustafi age, just with more than Mustafi ability.
Nathan Ake. Yeah, that Holding and Ake are my center backs of the future. Young, English. Well, Nathan Ake is not English, but he's Premier League. He's been in the Premier League forever, or at least an apprentice. He was with Chelsea for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, he
was. So
yeah, and I had written down the same thing that you guys have said. Chambers is to me more of a replacement for El Neni. So yeah, I would get one more center back. Maybe start off the season with something like Ake and Socrates with Koscielny available. As the season goes on and Koscielny inevitably breaks down, Holding will hopefully be back and able to be in that role. Andy, you have something to say?
No, I thought I was about to read Fredo's question, and I was going to make a joke about how he was a new listener and, we'd never talked to him before. But I just realized that you're at the moment's gone.
Yeah, okay. Let's say Kroenke Sports Entertainment came to you and said they were going to overhaul the squad entirely. However, you get 5 players you can save from being sold. Everyone else will be sold, or we can just pay them off to leave using money from the decision to cancel the Rams' new stadium.
I like this one.
He didn't actually say that. I made that part up. Which 5 players do you keep, James?
I can do this really quick, unless James has 5.
Oh, no, yeah, you go first.
Okay.
Give James time to think.
Torreira, Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Aaron Ramsey. Because technically, he's in the squad.
He's there. You could buy him back as well. All right, James, you're 5.
Aubameyang, Lacazette, Bellerin, I think. 2 more. I think I would say Torreira and Leno.
Leno's an interesting one because as amazing as he's been for us, Leno would seem to be more replaceable than someone like Torreira or I don't know who the sixth would be that I'd do instead of Leno.
Think of it this way, right? Look at the money that was spent on keepers. He's been just as good as a few keepers that have gone for 60+ million pounds.
Well, that's more a negative statement on them than it is a positive.
But even still, like
that's a great deal.
But that's the market now. Like that's where the market is for keepers. So for us to even replace him in this crazy scenario, you're looking at our entire transfer bill. So I think that we got one under the cost here. I think that we were great with this one. So that's why I would save him.
Okay, and then there's also a center back we haven't talked about, and let's make this the second to last question, Andy, from Andrew the Hinkley Gooner. You got this?
Yeah, so Christian Bilic, does this contract run out this summer, and do you agree he'd be very useful to us next season? I've heard good things about him and the way Charlton played good football. I guess I haven't seen him enough to answer this. Maybe one of you two gentlemen have.
Well, we've talked to Tom. Tom's better half is a Charlton supporter. Has been watching him all season and has very great things to say about how he's been playing there. Now it is League One, although they look to be on their way to promotion. But I've heard from other Charlton supporters online that he was a great loan for them, that they'd be sorry to see him go. His contract does not run out this summer. His loan ends at the end of the month. He's got 1 more year on his contract, so I can see us, doing what our people have said and making sure we extend him at a quite reasonable rate.
He's homegrown too, right?
He's homegrown. He's apparently been playing really well, and you could do a lot worse than him. Maybe I think he's probably better ready to be a spot starter and player in the first team next season than Medley or Pleguizego, who I think is leaving in June anyway. So and certainly better than that other prospect, that Mustafi guy, who's just never panned out. But James, what do you know about Bilic?
I like the look of him from what I've seen from him at Charlton. He actually scored for them the other day, a really nice goal a couple of weeks ago. He's been playing, it's a bit like Chambers. He's been playing central midfield, holding midfield for Charlton all season long. But I think Arsenal envisaged him more as a centre-back. And that's certainly what the Charlton coaches have been saying. They think his future is at centre-back. But at that level, he's just so useful to them in midfield. He's the most technically accomplished player on the team. So he's been installed at the hub there. His size is really something to behold. I mean, he's 6'3", 6'4". He's broad. He has that physicality that sometimes we feel we lack in this Arsenal team. He's 21 now, so I think he's been with us for like 5 years. He came at 16. I would like to see him given a go. The issue in some ways is that him and Chambers are going to be competing for similar spots in the team, kind of backup holding midfielder, backup centre half, but let them fight it out, see who comes out on top.
Yeah, I mean, two homegrown players.
Yeah, we need depth and we need homegrown. So why not? Why not give them the opportunity?
That would surely be the exit door for El Neni, but I think I'm ready for him to go.
Yeah, and Charlton's been a good breeding ground for us with loan players. I mean, they're maligned now, but Alex Song and Francis Coquelin both went there, poor players, and came back first team players. So maybe Bilic could be another one.
I forgot that's where Coquelin came back from unexpectedly and became incredible. Final question is from 312 Gooner. I'm assuming he's from Chicago, the area code 312. It's also my birthday. So the question is, James, would you rather have a team made up of 11 Mustafis or 11 Dennis Suarez's? My answer to this is just no. But I think he's looking for a choice. James, which would you take?
I'm going to take a leap into the unknown and say 11 Dennis Suarez's. Mustafi is a known quantity to me, so I'll take a gamble. Who knows? Maybe Dennis Suarez is brilliant, and we just haven't seen it.
Well, it is somewhat known in the sense that we know he's not Mustafi.
Well, that's true.
Andy, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I would go Dennis Suarez all day. I mean, he was good enough to get a move to Barcelona. He's good enough for Unai to take him at multiple teams. So I think there's something special there. We just never got to see it. So yeah, I would take him any day of the week.
What is that Mustafi picture where he's just doing that like that stupid? I mean, where did that come from? And what professional footballer gets pictured doing that? You guys know the picture I'm talking about?
Well, wasn't it based off of him dancing?
You just want me to get up and do that again.
Yeah. Wasn't he he was pictured dancing after the World Cup win, so I think it kind of stems from his silly dancing there.
I'm pretty sure he's in an Arsenal shirt.
Yeah, but he translated over to the training sessions with us.
It's like he's got his butt sticking out one end, and he's got this it looks like he's in the finale of a Broadway show or something like that, and that's not what I look for in my. The Broadway show is called Slide Tackler.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it. Thank you to our users. I know there were some that we didn't get to, but we've just about taken up enough of James's time today. Before we promote a upcoming show coming up, James, you want to promote your upcoming shows? Where can we find you? Twitter, in theaters. We can find you, I'm sure, at Wembley doing the show.
Yeah, selling the place out, the Emirates Stadium. No, I mean, obviously follow me on at Gunnerblog, but if you're interested in seeing my comedy stuff, follow at James McNicholas as well, because I post more links to stuff there. If you're in Brighton this weekend, come and see my show at the Warren. And if not, just stay tuned to social media, and I'll be posting more gigs in London and elsewhere as and when they're available for sale.
Well, and hopefully we'll get a chance to have a visit, get you a pint or something. Andy's the next one of us going over, I believe.
I am in August.
I will try to make it next season. But thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Make sure you clear your schedules, listeners, for Friday, May 24th at 4 p.m. UK. 11 a.m. Eastern in the U.S. We're going to be having a very special show, doubling as a preview. I'm so used to saying Premier League, a preview of just our 4th European Cup final in the last 40 years. And it will also be a 30-year anniversary show for a moment that was only slightly more impactful for me than the birth of my children, which is Anfield 1989. This will be a can't miss show because we're going to be joined by a very special guest. I'm sure it's not going to be hard to guess who it is, but I'm thrilled about it. The man has relevance to both subjects, European Cup finals and Anfield 89. And no, it's not Theo Walcott. So start your weekend early on May 24th. Join us in the chat, live questions, all of that, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. Hopefully once more in between to talk about the regular the Premier League season in review. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. There'll be a link up here in just a minute that you can use to subscribe. Thumbs up to us if you enjoyed it. You can watch on YouTube. You can watch us on Pornhub, James, if you want. Not this pod. We're not going to put you on Pornhub unless we get the waiver signed. But we also now have snippets on YouTube. Because I'm not busy enough, I've decided to take 3 hours out of every week and chop our podcast into about 7 or 8 little bite-sized snippets, if you will.
I don't know if we need 7 or 8, do we?
Well, I'm just cranking out the content, even if it's repeated content. But
you do love to crank it out.
We'll figure all that out, so you can, you can watch one while you're in the loo. You can watch one, while you're on a conference call, whatever you want. So that's about it. Thank you, gentlemen. James, cheers.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Appreciate
it. And Andy, I will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
All right, come on, you Gooners.